Hello and welcome to Wednesday Reviews with NoteFull, where what we do is we review some of the submissions that you had over the past week on our NoteFull forum. So I'm really excited because this week we're going to talk about speaking question number 1, which a lot of students have trouble with and which we revisit basically every other week. So what I want to do first is let you know that we're going to listen to 2 student example answers that are really high level, about a 25 out of 30. And we're going to talk about how those examples give you a really good understanding of how to deliver content, of how to make sure that you get a good score, but also explain some of the issues that those students had that were preventing them from getting an even higher score. So you can really learn a lot from this video. And that's our goal and our intent, so I hope you're excited and you're ready to take notes. So to begin, I want to review the question that these students answered if you've never seen it before, and if you have, then give you a chance to kind of review it and refresh your memory real quick. So here's the question. Talk about an event from the past that you would like to relive. Describe the original event and say why you would like to relive it. Okay, so a pretty clear question, one that really opens you up to expanding on details of an example. So the first thing that we're going to do is we should already understand the structure. We deliver an answer. Then what we want to do is support that answer with 2 reasons and then go ahead and provide an example for each of those reasons. And you're going to see how these students basically use that basic format to answer this question. So let's go ahead and listen to our first student.
There are 2 events that I would like to relive if I have a chance to. First, the day that I got my first Tamagotchi from my granny, because I want to recall that excitement when I got my gift. It was my 8th birthday and I needed something special like other kids. Even though my granny didn't have that much money, she wanted to give me a Tamagotchi anyways. Another thing is my trip around Thailand when I was 22 after my graduation. I went to different islands with my friends. We met cool people and we enjoyed awesome parties. I missed that experience because I remember I felt so young and free. So these are the 2 events that I would like to relive again.
All right, so that was an excellent answer, very high level, and we can tell from the student that this student has a very good accent, and that is going to contribute a lot to a higher rating because that shows a very strong command of English. So I'm actually going to grade this student a little bit hard, and the reason is because I'm exposing it to kind of like the average student. So for you watching this video, if you deliver like this, you have a really good accent, you can expect a pretty high score, above a 25 and above. 25 to a 27 out of 30 perhaps. But there are some issues here. But before we get to those, because they're very small, you know that the student had very smooth delivery. The student really didn't have any issues with explaining or expanding on anything. So what I want to do really quickly before we move on is actually tell you what her first example was. And this is a Tamagotchi. So it's a little I guess you can consider it like a toy or something that allows you to kind of electronically play with a little animal and kind of feed it and things like that. And so this was what the student was referring to. Now this brings us to another point. Whenever you have a situation come up where you're explaining something and that thing that you're explaining may be unfamiliar to the person listening or to the person reading, because this also applies to writing questions specifically writing question number 2. You want to make sure to explain it, give details, because people might be unfamiliar. So if you're not sure if someone knows, explain it. So that would have been great. That would have been another sentence, because if you would have noticed, this student finished at around 41 seconds. There's no problem with that. That's pretty close to the 45, but we always want to allow ourselves to expand. It's in this question, it's good to kind of push the limits of the timer. That way you really show the grader that you have a comfort with English and you can explain a lot of information. So now what I want to do is actually listen to the next student.
An event from the past that I would like to relive is a painful experience with my left leg for one reason. That is, people can learn from my negative story. For example, I was preparing for the TOEFL and I was sitting in my chair for hours without taking a break or exercising. So as a result, I had a painful pain in my left leg. I went to Coney Island Hospital and the doctor recommended that I do a surgery. So because of that, I couldn't attend my exam on September 27th and I had to postpone it. And that's why I'd like to relive this sad event.
All right, so another great example, and what that example does is it shows you several key components. Again, this recording sometimes is a little bit tough because microphones don't really pick up the voices, so I apologize if you couldn't hear that clearly. Maybe you can kind of boost up your volume listening to it again. But what this student did is the student went from the beginning to the end, 45 solid seconds of speech, which is excellent. And so that's a good thing that we learned. Another thing that the student did is provided a lot more details. details. So that's a really good a way for you to kind of understand, this is how you describe a story, very descriptive, very detailed. It's like a narration, this happened and then this happened and then this happened. So what I want to do now is actually go over a careful review of both of these answers together and explain how this can help you when you actually deliver your answer. So the first thing is that both of these students had excellent smoothness. And smoothness is a word that we use to describe when you don't hesitate, when you don't have ums and uhs, when you don't repeat yourself, when you just kind of go from one piece of information to the next smoothly. So that was excellent. Both of these students had strong grammar, which means they were able to construct very clear, accurate, grammatically, and contextually sentences that help us understand what was being explained. Now the third thing, which is what I want you to learn from, is several components. The first student did a fantastic job of connecting the reasons and examples to the question itself, very connected. Because the question asked, why would you want to relive this event? And so the student explained that it was very enjoyable. The first one got the Tamagotchi, wanted to relive the emotion of it. Thailand wanted to relive the experience. It was really fun. But one of the things that happened here was that the student in the second example didn't really explain too much, was a little bit general in the description. You could kind of tell the student was searching for what to say a little bit, and that's why the student finished in 41 instead of 45 seconds, kind of like, okay, I don't really know what else to say, I think I said it all, finished. And the reason was because the student was speaking in generalities, and what we want to do is actually be specific and descriptive. So sometimes when we say that, it can be hard, like, what exactly does that mean? And that's what the second student did. It was an unfortunate example, if you heard, because it was about the experience of sitting down too long while studying and kind of maybe not having good circulation to the legs and having an issue where the student had to go to the doctor and have some surgery. And the description, the student talked about Coney Island, which was a location where the student saw the doctor and had surgery. It's excellent. It really takes you through every step of the process. So the only thing with that question, second student, that was an issue was the question asked, why would you want to relive it? And the student in the beginning said that people can learn from her situation. But it's a little bit confusing because how would reliving something give somebody an opportunity to learn from it? Because maybe reliving it will get the person to kind of see it happen one more time, but it doesn't really connect, because when you relive something, it's kind of like going back to it and doing it over again. And so who else is going to benefit? So that answer wasn't quite as clear as it could have been. As you can see, I'm kind of struggling to see the connection that exists there. So there's a little bit of weakness. So what we want is the level of description and detail from the second student and the level of connection with the answer from the first student. And then you have a fantastic answer that's going to earn like a 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, depending on your comfort, on your English, on your pronunciation. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is something kind of interesting, because both of these students, I actually hear them speaking comfortably, which is okay, which is fantastic. But I can tell very clearly that there's a untapped potential. There's a potential that exists for the students to speak even more energetically and even more quickly. Now, why does that matter? Well, when you speak with energy, what usually happens is you have greater focus. You are going to speak with more command. So you're going to give a presentation of a speech that's like, oh, the student is strong, the student is very comfortable with the language. And when you speak with energy, you speak a little bit more quickly. And of course, as you can imagine, if you speak more quickly and deliver more content, it shows that you're more fluent with the language, you're more comfortable with it. So I hope that we understand from these students the good elements and also the elements that needed some improvement. So upon careful analysis, careful review, I would say that these students would average a 25 to 30. Now again, I'm grading these students a little bit hard, but also giving you a concept of what was missing. Depending on the grader, it could go down to maybe a 24, or it can go all the way up to a 26 or a 27. But the 25 is the average. So I hope you learned something, and if not, post your questions below. And the next thing that I want to talk to you about is how do you submit your work? Well, what you want to do is click on the link below this video that says forum, and then you're going to be taken to the different questions that we have for the writing, for the speaking, and it's all free, and there's a lot of examples there for you to listen to and learn from. So I really hope you enjoyed this video and you liked it. And just when you post, there's one quick thing that I want to mention. It was really great within these posts to see the students have a little bit of an expansion on their profile. So you see the member, this Morel, that was the second student that we heard, has a little picture here that talks about time. You may not be able to see that clearly. And then when you go down, Opal, the next student, the first student that we listened to, that student has a little image there too. So it's always great to put your profile and the student has a little comment there and it's a little face. So, we like to see that. Be interactive. Let us know how you feel about the question that you answered. It's a great way for us to kind of interact with you, kind of see what you're doing, and makes it a little bit more fun, I hope. So good luck with your studies as always. Stay tuned for the next video next week, and have a wonderful day.